If you thought about arts and culture in America in the 20th century, it was a very easy link to Yaddo. Think of Yaddo as the Bell Lab of creativity, and we're the starting point. And you don't ever get to the marketplace, you don't ever get to the prizes and the breakthroughs if you don't have support and seed money for that very early stage. And that's the case that I think Yaddo should make and makes very effectively.
I'm Alan Gergenis, and I'm a writer.
Werner Hayflick, I'm a painter.
Fran Kiernan, biographer.
Philip Gorevich. I'm editing the Paris Review.
A.M. Holmes, and I'm a writer.
Harry Lee, and I'm a sculptor.
Rick Moody, and I'm a fiction writer.
Julia Mandel, and I'm a performance artist.
Stuart Wallace, I'm a composer.
Donald Antrim, I'm a writer.
Shay Youngblood, I'm a writer and a visual artist.
Nicholas Davidoff, I'm a writer.
Jonathan Santlofer, painter and writer.
I actually probably first heard about Yaddo by reading about it, and probably reading about it in biographies of various other writers.
I remember reading about Carson McCullers wandering around with a thermos full of tea and sherry at this place called Yaddo and writing all these books that I liked reading, and I thought, sounds good.
Yaddo was just described to me as this, as this paradise, as this place which was absolute rapture for somebody to go and work.
That first visit, which was 6 weeks, is still probably the most intense creative experience I've ever had.
I remember the sensation when I was 22 that I'd been looking for this house all my life. There's a line in West Side Story, there's a place for us, somewhere a place for us. And this is the place. It's a mysterious gift to the world.
Yaddo means the time and the space, and above all the permission, just to go do what it is that you most want to do with your work.
What Yaddo means to me, I don't think I could write a book without Yaddo.
Yaddo means retreat. That's what it's about. That's what it's supposed to be about. And retreat is about work and being apart from civilization so that you can better digest it and refract it.
There's this Tiffany stained glass window of Mrs. Trask having her epiphany in the woods. She was a theosophist. She was a universalist. She believed in some immense creative spirit and seemed to have had a vision on the grounds that she then implemented in the founding of Yaddo.
When I'm at Yaddo, I am able to extend my imagination. I'm able to go further than I otherwise would. And that desire to do that and the impulse to do that is in some way supported by the institution itself, and supported by the fact that on the one hand people are making your breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but also the very scale of the buildings is something that makes one want to think big, which I think is fantastic.
There's no distraction. There's not the noise of life to distract you. And every single moment that I'm there, I know that I'm being supported. From the chefs in the kitchen to housekeeping, they're doing everything to make sure that I have everything that I need to be creative.
It's wonderful to have this place where somebody is taking care of you and looking after you. And also it's terrific to have other people doing things that are similar, not exactly what you're doing, but things that overlap.
The cross-fertilization part, the interdisciplinary part, ends up being incredibly fertile terrain for me and always gets me thinking about my own work and going back to it in a new way.
If you look at the history of Yaddo and both the numbers and the quality and the actual names of the composers and writers and artists who all passed through Yaddo's doors over the last 100 years, it really becomes a cultural history of America.
I would say that I get more done at Yaddo than anywhere else.
In my normal life, and I think this is true of a lot of artists, you're working and you're doing stuff, but you don't often take time to think. And Yaddo gives you this time where you can think.
In the creative process, when I'm working and I'm following an idea, and then I come to these sort of unknown points. In New York, I would have 1,000,001 other things I need to do that would take me away, and I may never come back to that point again and discover what was there. But at Yaddo, it was so fabulous because I could just open up the door and just feel the breeze coming through. I could get up and walk around the gardens. I could take a bike ride. I could go swimming. And every single time I would come back, there it was. I knew I had the direction.
When I think about Yaddo, the things that I feel are kind of a deep love, almost like a love of family, but it's related to place.
It's an institution. It was also an experience. It's a memory. And it's a gift.
I think I was profoundly changed after my experience at Yaddo.
I think it pretty much changed my life.
Yeah, it's changed my life. There's no question about that.
I think I wouldn't have a career if I hadn't gone to Yaddo.
Why somebody who's outside of the art world should care about Yaddo is as simple as, why would we care about the world we live in? That in order to move forward in the world we live in, we need art to reflect ourselves back to ourselves. We need to see ourselves, to be able to be accountable, to be able to look at how we move through time and space, to chart the world that we live in, to comment upon the world we live in. We need it for entertainment. We need music. We need images. We need photographs. We need poetry. We need these things. These, in fact, are the food of our soul. So I think the idea to me that somebody could not be interested in that is actually terrifying, because that would be the person I'm most afraid of, probably.
Am I ready to imagine the world without art? You mean, am I ready to imagine the end of the world?
A world without art is a world without love.
I really can't imagine the world without art. It's not possible.
If you decide you're going to spend 3 or 4 or 5 years working on something and you really don't have any idea what it is, and there's no plan, and I'm speaking about maybe writing a novel or something like that, then that's a kind of an act of faith. And if Yaddo is there to support that, then the experience of being there can in fact be really, I don't know what else to call it, but sort of spiritual. And it's a euphoric kind of feeling sometimes. You've come to a place where this unknowingness has a frame or a context, kind of a home, right? Yaddo itself then becomes a large act of faith, full of smaller ones in progress or taking place. So maybe supporting Yaddo is another act of faith